Okay, in order to get the oil to air cooler out, also had to remove the bolts on the intercooler just to allow it to drop 3 or 4 inches, and then this will pull right out. And she's out. So, with the exception of the overdrive button on the dash, we've removed everything associated with the automatic transmission. Okay, I'm good to reassemble the front end, the grill, and all that, but I just wanted to point out that these 2 bolts on the condenser here, I've been calling it the intercooler, but it's a condenser. Intercooler's in behind it. On the top, there's a stud with a nut on both sides, and they broke right off. Maybe because it's dissimilar metals between here and the intercooler, which I'm pretty sure is aluminum. But the bolts on the bottom, they came off and went back on fine. I think we're still good to go because it's fastened on the bottom here, and here. Plus it's fastened up here, so it's still pretty solid. Alright, before I put the grill on, I'm going to fill this thing back up with coolant. 1, to check to make sure there's no leaks, and 2, just so I don't forget and start it up later on without coolant. Alright, got the radiator filled up with coolant, no leaks, we're good to go. So now, next thing we do is need to remove this plate that has the overdrive off button for the automatic transmission. We've got a replacement plate that has just the cargo light only. So, if you're doing that, it just clips off. These side clips are sort of spring loaded, so if you just push to one side and then the other, it should pop right out. And there's two plugs in the back, one for the cargo light and one for the overdrive switch. And they just have the little clips that grab it on one side on each. Next thing we're going to do is put the manual steering column in. I just slid it into place. Just kind of loosely attached it with 2 nuts. Still got to attach the rag joint on the engine bay side down there. And after I've got that done, I'm going to plug in all the electrical connections, switch the key on, and make sure the thing blinkers, flashers, that stuff sort of works. Got the steering wheel in, the rag joint is reattached. There's 2 bolts that thread in from the firewall toward the front of the truck. And there's also 3 nuts on the firewall. You can see one there, one down there, and then one over there, kind of a triangular shape. So they're all secured, so we're good to go with the steering wheel. So the next thing I'm going to do is pop the wheel on itself. Make sure the front wheels are lined up straight, and then center the wheel up and attach it to the column and make the electrical connections. Okay, we've got the steering wheel on the truck. Made sure the wheels were lined up straight. Put the steering wheel on in a up-down position. Made all the connections. There's 4 electrical connectors. This main one here that has a bolt that seats it into place. This one here, and the last one up in by the ignition switch. So, I'm going to reconnect the battery, and at least we can test that the flashers and blinkers work. We won't know if how we're set with cruise control until we have it out on the road. So, reconnected the battery. Hazard should work with the key off, and they do. Switch the key on here. Okay, that tells us the ignition switch is working. Less putting it in into the start position. All right, so Left blinker, right blinker's working. I can see the high beams working there. I guess we're in business. Next thing we're going to tackle is get the drive shafts in the vehicle. Got them laid out on the floor here. So you see the automatic shafts on the left and the manual shafts on the right. So you can see that the manual shaft is a little shorter than the automatic shaft. And the rear shafts, the rear portion of the rear shaft seems to be exactly the same, but there's a difference in length in the forward of that hanger bearing. So we're going to put a couple of new U-joints, brand new U-joints for the back, a brand new U-joint here, and a new U-joint here. So we're going to install those U-joints and then hang the drive shafts. Tool that comes in handy to install those U-joints is this 20-ton press. Picked it up at Harbor Freight for pretty cheap. I think it was, I don't know, 150 bucks on sale, something like that. If you don't have one of those, I've found in the past a ball joint kit works well too, like a ball joint press kit. And after I stopped, I put oil in the transfer case, gear oil, 75 W90 amps oil.
W90, I got it.
And I did that. Then once that was done, are you videoing me?
Okay, so I've been gone all week, back to school. We didn't end up finishing it in 2 days.
Surprise, surprise.
So I had to go back to school, and I had some stuff to do this weekend and work and school, and Dad's been nice enough to do some work while I was gone, and he narrated for a bit and videoed, but now I'm back and in charge. So the rear drive shaft is now successfully in place, and now we're just going to go through some of the wiring and show you the different wiring. This is the VSS, that's the variable speedometer sensor is what that's called. And that's just a plug and play from the automatic to the manual. This entire unit you can change over, and then the plug is exactly the same
Exactly
as well.
the same, no issue there.
And then on top of the transfer case is the four-wheel drive lights plug, and that's just plug and play as well, considering the transfer case is the same as the other one. Well, not exactly the same, the spline count's different, but the plug is the same.
Yeah, it's got a kind of a T plug to it. Then the next one is
the final wiring, which we haven't done yet, up on the top of the better view. Up on the top of the transmission lid, that's a two-pronger there, and that's for your reverse switch. And what you do is you take your three-pronger that was on the automatic transmission, the two outside wires, that's for your reverse lights, so those two go on the two prongs, and then this middle one, from what I've read, is you have to ground that to be able to start the truck, and in order to get your cruise control to work, you have to ground it somehow through the switch on the clutch pedal. So we're going to try and figure that out and then get back to you on that. And this other switch, that's from the automatic transmission.
You have two of them, so one of them must be overdrive, and I'm not sure what the other one is.
But they're not in use, so
Yet.
so we'll figure that out. I've snipped the two outside wires of this three-pronger here, and then crimped onto female ends onto those wires, and then should be able to just plug them in up on that reverse switch, turn on the ignition and put it in reverse, and then the reverse light should go on. So we'll test that and see if that works. We've plugged back in the battery, and we're going to test the reverse switch that we just plugged in. So you're gonna throw that in reverse for me, and then we're gonna go look and see if this works. Okay, go ahead and throw it in reverse. Reverse lights are on.
Take it out of reverse.
He's out of reverse, so reverse lights are off.
Put them back in reverse.
Back in reverse, and it works.
Alright, we're good.
So it looks like that worked. That's good.
Alright, one of the last things we have to do is sort out some wiring issues for the transmission swap. So the 3-prong, this is the automatic transmission that came out of the vehicle, the truck. So the 3-prong plug here, we've already cut it off, and the 2 outside wires, we'll put 2 new male ends on those and plug those into the reverse switch sensor, reverse light switch sensor on the Getrag. Now that remaining 3rd wire, the middle wire, we're going to splice it and feed it up in front of the firewall in the cab, and we're going to connect it. Get some light on here. We're going to connect it to this, hard to see here, connect it to this lead here that is off the slave cylinder. So we're going to feed one side of that into this plug, and then the other side we'll bring out and attach it to a good ground source. So when the clutch pedal is depressed, that'll complete that circuit. The switch itself is obviously inside the slave cylinder. So we've got this old wiring harness that the guy gave us as part of the buy for all the swap. So I think I've found the compatible connector here off this harness, so I might just cut that and use it for that purpose. This harness itself looks like it's pretty butchered up. I mean, there's like 8 or 10 wires there that all have been cut and reconnected. So anyway, a good shot of the old Mustangs. Okay, I just cut this connector off here, and it is indeed compatible with that plug coming off the slave cylinder. So we're going to use it up there. So I just need to solder some wires, put some shrink wraps on those. Again, one's going to lead to a ground, and the other one's going to lead to that wire that was off the 3-prong connector on the automatic transmission plug. So this is the one I'm talking about. We've cut 2 wires off, and they're feeding to the reverse light switch at the top of the manual tranny. So this 3rd wire here now, the center one, I'm going to cut it, solder it together, shrink wrap, and feed it up the firewall and into the cab, where we'll connect it to this.